Welcome. Divine justice has always come true. The freedom war waged against the invading Russian troops on the Ukrainian fronts is getting hotter, while the Ukrainian armed forces are implementing a strong defense in the Donetsk region. It seems that they are planning a serious offensive through Crimea in Luhansk. On the other hand, the Zaporizhia and Kherson fronts are also becoming active, and while Ukraine is preparing a serious offensive, the Russians are weighing the defense capabilities of the Ukrainian armed forces with small and medium-sized offensive attempts. Even though there is a strong Ukrainian air defense force on the Ukrainian fronts at the moment, Iranian-made kamikaze drones in the hands of Russia still continue to be a very serious threat to Ukrainian cities and civilian infrastructure. But divine justice has come true against this drone terror of Russia, which is supported by Iran. The global effects of the Ukraine-Russia war once again spread to the Middle East, the critical period full of tension, which displaced the fundamental balances in the world. Started with the war in Ukraine, but now the Middle East has completely turned into a place of fire. Many airstrikes, fires, and explosions in Iranian cities have illuminated the Middle East. In particular, it was claimed by U.S. media WJS that the airstrikes on the Iranian military facility in Isfahan were carried out by the Israeli Air Force. The sparks of fire started to intensify after the attacks that took place in a synagogue in Israel recently. After the attacks in which 7 people died, an armed attack was carried out at the Iranian embassy of Azerbaijan. Azerbaijani media announced that the security guard lost his life and 2 people were injured. Currently, after this tragic attack, it has been reported that the Azerbaijani embassy in Iran's capital, Tehran, has been closed. It is also among the news that all the personnel working in the embassy were evacuated. The attack on the Azerbaijani embassy caused the fuse to be completely ignited. The target, Iran, and the Tehran administration, besides all these attacks, was one of Russia's biggest and obvious supporters. Iran, which provided thousands of Shahed 136 kamikaze unmanned aerial vehicles and many military equipment to the Moscow administration, was also held responsible for the deaths of many innocent civilians in Ukraine. Why was Tehran still supporting Moscow, even though it was aware that the war in Ukraine would escalate and that Russia would kill many more Ukrainian civilians with airstrikes? Which country is Iran's main target? What consequences will all these events have in the Middle East? The answer to all these questions are waiting for you with all their striking details in this video content that we have carefully prepared. As Divine Justice YouTube channel, we work 24/7 with a large team of experts specialized in international politics, regional clashes, NATO-Russia confrontations, military issues in Europe, the Middle East, Baltics, Scandinavian regions, and South Pacific and Arctic regions, to prepare our informative and commentary content about accurate reports. You can help us improve our content by sharing your valuable comments with us. Let's take a look at the latest critical attacks and clashes in the Middle East, with accurate and official updates. With the recent attacks in Azerbaijan, the Iranian administration entered the ring of fire yesterday. Iranian state television reported that a large explosion was heard at a military facility in Isfahan. It was reported that the explosion occurred at an ammunition production facility belonging to the Ministry of Defense. In addition, the Iranian Ministry of Defense shared with the press that an unsuccessful attack was carried out on the military facility with micro-unmanned aerial vehicles, and there was no loss of life in the attack. The Isfahan governorate also confirmed these attacks. But the airstrikes against Iran were not limited to this. A total of 7 regions within Iran's borders, including the military facility in Isfahan, suffered from the attacks. Sepah headquarters, Al-Quds Sepah HQ base, ammunition and IED production center, oil refinery, Hamadan military base, and the military base in Karaj were among the targets of the attacks carried out yesterday. After the attacks in Isfahan, it was reported that the building, which was used as an ammunition production facility, was damaged as a result of the collision of unmanned aerial vehicles. The explosion of UAVs on this facility caused a fire on the roof of the building. It was reported that the fire was extinguished after a certain time, but it's not known whether the flames spread to other ammunition areas. The U.S. media WJS, in its report based on U.S. defense officials, claimed that the air attacks on Isfahan were carried out by the Israeli Air Force. The Israeli government was primarily blamed for the attack on the munitions factory next to a facility belonging to the Iranian Space Research Center. However, while these claims were still in the process of being confirmed, statements were made that the USA carried out this attack. Al Arabiya and Al Hadath claimed that the U.S. Air Force and another unknown country carried out the drone attacks on Iran yesterday. Al Hadath stated that the other country is not Israel. Both channels emphasized that especially ballistic missile depots were targeted in these attacks. Was there a message behind the attacks? Was the targeting of the warehouses containing ballistic missiles a harbinger of a missile attack that would occur in the coming days? Alongside Al Arabiya, the U.S. media provided striking news that the U.S. Air Force carried out Iran's attacks in Isfahan. Obviously, the news that these attacks were carried out by the U.S. forces turned the world agenda upside down. While the focus of the whole world has shifted to the striking attack in the Middle East, these confessional statements from the U.S. media seem to change the course of the Middle East considerably. In addition, the targeting of the Azerbaijani embassy in Iran and the attacks that took place in Isfahan and 6 other Iranian regions have been recorded in the world history records as the best lesson given to the Iranian country, since the arrows were directed at the Tehran administration. On the other hand, Iran is the country that gives the most support to Russia in the Ukraine war and is opposed by most of the world's countries. For this reason, it's not unreasonable for the U.S. to organize such an attack on the Iranian administration, which aims to create an atmosphere of chaos in the Middle East and support the unjust invasion plans of the Russians in the war in Ukraine. After these attacks, a situation assessment came from Ukraine. Ukrainian Air Force spokesman Yuri Ihnat commented on the situation in Iran. According to Yuri Ihnat, what happened in Iran can be called the consequences of Tehran policies. According to the Ukrainian official, perhaps Iran will channel its support for terrorist states in a different direction instead of helping Russia commit war crimes. Continuing his striking statements on this subject, Ihnat said, "We know that Russia is trying to buy the weapons they are missing from them. These weapons include ballistic missiles and unmanned aerial vehicles. The Iranians also know what they want from Russia. Moreover, Russia has promised them warplanes. Iran also has enemies in the region. Let's hope this country turns its political vector in a more civilized direction." This state of confusion also greatly affected the war in Ukraine. Considering that the Iranian administration is one of Russia's supporters, perhaps we can consider these attacks as an ultimatum given to Tehran not to aid Moscow. Of course, all these claims are not clearly confirmed at the moment, and with each passing time, different findings about these attacks can lead to new detections. While the Israeli government did not comment on the attacks in Iran, Iranian Foreign Minister Hussein Emir Abdullahian gave clues that the attacks in Isfahan and other Iranian regions started a dangerous process. It seems inevitable that the fire in the Middle East will spread to much wider borders after these statements of the Iranian foreign minister. Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is scheduled to travel to Israel on Monday to continue U.S.-Israeli talks on Iran and other regional issues. It will not be a surprise to witness intense tension and striking moments in the coming days. We will be back with the most up-to-date information and evaluations. Thank you for watching us. Our contents are carefully prepared by our expert team. This content only belongs to Divine Justice YouTube channel. We legally fight all channels, social media platforms, and websites that use our content without our permission.